Currently, the federal government is providing about $500 million in funding, but we've seen a decline in federal funding, as you can see by the chart that's about to go up on the screen. We've seen that slide go over the last number of years, and that's quite a steep drop, as you can see, in funding. Basically, the funding declines in each passing year, and it ends completely in 25 years. Well, clearly that cannot be allowed to happen, and clearly the federal government needs to come back to the table. And this week the people of Canada have voted. We have a new parliament and hopefully a renewed commitment to affordable housing. And I can assure you, as your representative at the provincial level, I'm not going to keep quiet about this. I'm going to continue to push the federal government because it's desperately needed that we have people at all levels of government, municipal, regional, provincial, not-for-profit, for-profit, pressing and arguing our case with the federal government. At the same time, we're also challenging Canada's newly elected government to show fairness for Ontario. The federal government, as you may know from discussions the Premier has had and from a website that we launched prior to the federal election, the federal government takes more than $20 billion each year from Ontario to provide programs and services to the rest of Canada, known as equalization. That's more than $1,800 per Ontarian at a time when our province is facing a significant challenge caused by a higher dollar, soaring oil prices, and a badly faltering American economy. Nous avons besoin d'un programme fédéral de développement économique pour le sud de l'Ontario, par exemple. We need a federal economic development program for southern Ontario. Such programs are in place in Quebec, the north, the west, and the Atlantic, but sadly not in southern Ontario. And that's not right, and really that's not fair. It's not fair, for instance, that a person who was laid off in the province of Ontario gets $4,600 less in unemployment insurance benefits than workers in other parts of Canada. That's not fair. Someone gets laid off in Quebec or Alberta or Newfoundland and Labrador, they're receiving $4,600 more than someone laid off in the province of Ontario. And this is not money that comes to the government of Ontario, it goes to the family to help with the rent, for food, for school supplies for the kids. And we have to make sure that these kind of inequities are addressed by the new Parliament of Canada. And it's not fair, for instance, that Ontario's healthcare system is shortchanged by more than $700 million every year. We don't receive funding on a per capita basis like every other province. That's money that could go to community health centers, to expand hospitals, to hire more nurses, nurse practitioners, and the like. And finally, it's not fair that Ontario's infrastructure funding is shortchanged by an incredible $970 million per year. Money that could go into the construction of new affordable housing or could go into repair and rehabilitation. And just on the infrastructure funding, to give you an idea of how bizarre the equalization system works, the base funding for the infrastructure program is the same across the country. So the good people of PEI, their base funding is $25 million, and the province of Ontario, the base funding is $25 million. Now, I have nothing against PEI. I'd love to go on vacation there, but I have more constituents in my riding than all of Prince Edward Island combined, and yet we're receiving the same base funding, clearly not fair. Our government is working hard to move Ontario forward, but we could achieve a lot more, obviously, if we had more of those resources that we send to the rest of the province stay back here in Ontario. We understand equalization is an important part of Confederation, and there are provinces that are doing less well than we are. But a TD report that came out 2 weeks ago showed of the $20 billion in equalization, we should, for all intents and purposes, keep about $11.7 billion of that in the province of Ontario for our programs and for our services. This past year, we moved, as Hugh talked about in our platform, we moved to create a long-term affordable housing strategy for Ontario to ensure the most vulnerable among us can obtain decent, affordable shelter. This plan will include creative financing options, it will cut red tape and be progressive, inventive, and financially sustainable. We will work with our municipal partners, the not-for-profit sector, and the private sector to help build this plan. In the next few months, we'll be moving forward to the consultation process. I think this document is basically the Social Housing Reform Act, which is one of the reasons we have to streamline the process. Those of you familiar with the Act will understand that we have work to do in trimming that and making it less convoluted and complicated. But in the next couple of months, we'll be moving forward with the consultation stage of the long-term affordable housing strategy. I look forward to discussing with your board of directors at lunch today where we hope you can provide input to us in the months ahead. No doubt many of you will have suggestions to make during our small group discussions later this afternoon as well, and I very much look forward to hearing what you had to say. We've already taken, and let me just conclude in the last couple of minutes, some solid first steps during the past year to preserve and upgrade our stock of affordable housing. In March, I advised all 47 municipal service managers of their allocation from a $100 million fund we provided for the repair of about 4,000 units of existing housing stock. To give you an example, Ottawa received about $8.2 million, London $3.3 million, Thunder Bay $1.5 million, Hamilton received more than $5.6 million. And that was, as you can well imagine, in difficult economic times, every minister is around the cabinet table trying to get more money. And this $100 million was the single largest investment in a repair and rehabilitation fund in Ontario's history, and something I'm very proud of, and I thank ONPHA and all of you who lobbied, obviously very effectively, to ensure that that money is in fact flowing as we speak. As well, the OCFA loan program is being expanded for municipalities to undertake social housing repairs. Municipalities will be able to leverage up to $500 million in low-cost loans to repair affordable housing. The eligibility criteria for the program was also expanded to allow nonprofit and co-op housing providers to apply for funds for capital projects. As well, my ministry contributed $100,000 to fund the asset management group coordinated by the Social Housing Services Corporation, part of a $1 million contribution that was announced in the budget, and the details on the specifics of that agreement will be announced in the next couple of months. This is a valuable research project surveying the need for the repair and renewal of public, cooperative, and not-for-profit housing. There has not been a major capital repair need survey of the entire sector on a province-wide basis for some time, and with the value of Ontario's social housing stock estimated at some $40 billion, it is essential that we properly manage this valuable asset. These are all good first steps, I believe, but they, of course, are only the beginning. Ontario needs a full-fledged affordable housing program, and the Ontario government believes we need fairness from the federal government in order to ensure that we have the kind of resources that we all want to invest in our communities and in our homes. I'm going to do all I can to ensure that this happens, and I know that you will too, and I very much look forward to working with all of you, whether you're with ONPHA, the actual board of directors, or some of the member organizations. And those of you, I know many of you certainly from my time as mayor, and it's great to see so many familiar faces here today. And as I said, I very much believe that investing in affordable housing are more than simply mere dollars. It's nice to talk about the big dollars, but at the end of the day, they're investment in the dignity, pride of home, and sense of community that every person in Ontario deserves. There's no question that non-profit groups are vital partners in this effort. I know that, the Premier knows that, and our Cabinet colleagues know that. Thank you. You don't hear that enough because, quite frankly, I don't think we say it enough in the political world. Thank you for the work that you do day in and day out. It's not easy, and you've had some really tough years over the last several years with previous governments. I understand, and that's why we've been doing what we can at the provincial level to either work with the municipal sector, the non-profit sector, and together I'm very confident we can ensure that every person in Ontario has access to safe, healthy, and affordable shelter. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.